When promises shatter. From the moment their eyes met, Alex loved Emily with a depth that felt destined. She believed he was the one, her soulmate. Together, they had built a life full of love and dreams. Alex, a kind-hearted architect, and Emily, a nurturing teacher, had a bond that felt unbreakable. They had been through so much together, struggling through job losses, personal tragedies, and family hardships. But through it all, they remained each other's anchor. Their love story was built on a promise to always be there, no matter the storms life threw their way. They had 2 small children, Lily, their curious 4-year-old daughter, and Max, their lively 2-year-old son. Their home was filled with the laughter of children and the smell of Emily's cooking, while Alex often worked late into the night, sketching new architectural designs. Despite their busy lives, they always found time to reconnect. Or so Emily thought. One evening, Emily's world shifted when she received an anonymous message. "You don't know the whole truth about him." First, she brushed it off. Who would try to tear apart their family? But as days went by, Alex's behavior began to change. He came home later and later, always on his phone, hiding it from her, and avoiding their usual conversations. His distance grew, and Emily could no longer ignore the gnawing feeling in her chest. She started noticing little things. His hesitations, the way he looked away when she asked simple questions, and the secretive tone when he spoke. Unable to ignore the whispers of doubt, Emily took matters into her own hands. She started following him one evening after work, and what she discovered shattered her. Alex had been meeting with someone she didn't know, and there were text messages, intimate and heartbreaking, that confirmed her worst fear. The woman, Sophie, was someone Alex had met through work, but their connection went far beyond professional. The messages were full of affection. Their secret meetings carried the weight of stolen moments, and there were words that pierced Emily's heart. "I miss you so much. I wish we didn't have to hide this." Emily was devastated. She had built a life around Alex, their children, their shared dreams. Now it all felt like a lie. Was this all some cruel mistake? Or had Alex been hiding this affair for longer than she could have ever imagined? Torn between the love she had for him and the crushing betrayal she felt, Emily had to make a choice. Was this a momentary lapse, a mistake he could never truly explain? Or was it a deep betrayal that would tear their family apart? Her mind raced, and her heart ached as she realized how deeply she loved him, yet how deeply he had hurt her. Could Emily find it within herself to forgive him, even if the truth turned out to be more painful than anything she had imagined? Would their children ever feel the same warmth in their home again? The questions lingered in her mind as the future of her family hung in the balance. The night Emily discovered the truth felt like time had come to a standstill. Her mind was a whirlwind of questions and disbelief. She didn't sleep at all, her eyes glued to the phone screen, rereading the messages that had torn apart everything she believed in. She felt nauseous, her hands trembling, but a part of her couldn't look away. There, in black and white, was the proof of her husband's betrayal. As dawn broke, the weight of the situation hit her harder than ever. The laughter of her children from the other room, so innocent and full of joy, contrasted painfully with the emptiness she felt inside. How could she explain this to them? How could she even face Alex? When he finally came home that morning, Emily was waiting. Her expression was cold, a stark contrast to the warmth of the home they had created. Alex, for all his charm and warmth, could sense the shift in the air before he even stepped inside. The smell of breakfast wasn't there. The usual hum of their morning routine, Lily running around, Max giggling in his crib, was absent. Only silence. We need to talk," he said, his voice tight with a mixture of guilt and fear. "I already know everything," Emily replied, her voice steady but raw, her heart breaking with each word. The room fell into an uneasy quiet. Alex's face drained of color. He didn't even need to ask what she meant. The guilt was evident in his eyes, but he couldn't bring himself to speak at first. Emily's gaze was piercing, but she refused to let herself break down. "Not yet. I never meant for you to find out this way," Alex said, stepping closer, his hands trembling slightly. I'm so sorry. I made a huge mistake. I should never have. How long? Emily interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. How long has this been going on, Alex? He hesitated, his eyes avoiding hers. A few months. I didn't want to hurt you, Emily. It was a mistake. It was never about you. It was me. I was lost. I didn't know how to fix things between us. Her heart clenched, but she remained strong. And now? What happens now, Alex? Do you expect me to just forgive you? To go back to the life we had? I don't know. But I love you, Emily. I love you, and I'll do anything to make this right. I'll leave her, I swear. I'll prove to you that I can be the man you thought I was. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to believe him. She wanted so badly to believe that this was just a momentary lapse in judgment, that they could somehow heal from this. But the pain was too raw, too deep. The trust had been shattered, and the pieces didn't seem like they could ever fit back together. She stared at him for a long moment, her mind racing. And what about Lily and Max? You've betrayed me, Alex, but you've also betrayed them. Can we ever go back to what we had before? Will they ever feel the love we used to have? Tears began to form in Alex's eyes as he realized the full extent of what he had done. His actions had not only hurt Emily, but they had put their family at risk, and the guilt of that weighed on him more than he could express. I don't know, he whispered, his voice breaking, but I'll fight for us, Emily. I swear I will. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild what we had. Please, I'll never forgive myself if I lose you and the kids. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words, but the pain was still too fresh. I need time, Alex. I can't make any decisions right now. You've taken away something that can't just be fixed with words. She turned away, her heart heavy, as she walked toward the kids' room. Lily was sitting on the floor, playing with her toys, while Max giggled as he reached out to her. The innocence in their eyes, their trust in her, made Emily feel like she was caught between two worlds, one of the past she cherished, and one of uncertainty that lay ahead. Alex stayed standing there, alone in the kitchen, his heart breaking with every second. He had destroyed the one thing that mattered most to him, and now all he could do was hope. Hope that Emily would find it in her heart to forgive him, and that they could somehow rebuild their shattered family. Alex tried to prove his remorse. He called and texted, sent flowers, and tried to speak to Emily about their future. But Emily remained distant, lost in her thoughts. She spent time with the children, focusing on them and trying to keep the family's routines as normal as possible. But the silence between her and Alex grew heavier with each passing day. It wasn't until one evening, when Emily sat alone in their living room, staring at the family photos on the wall, that she realized something. She still loved him. She loved him despite the hurt, despite the betrayal. But love alone couldn't fix everything. Trust had to be rebuilt, one small step at a time. She knew that forgiveness would take time, and maybe, just maybe, they could heal. But the road would be long, and it would require more than just apologies. It would require sacrifice, patience, and the strength to face the truth, no matter how painful. And with that realization, Emily knew she had a choice to make. Not just for herself, but for the future of her children and the man she once thought she knew. Would they rebuild their family, or would they drift apart, forever changed by the betrayal that had almost torn them apart? Only time would tell. The weeks following that fateful conversation were some of the hardest Emily had ever faced. The silence in their home was deafening, and each day felt like a test of her strength. She had always prided herself on being a strong, independent woman, someone who could handle anything life threw her way. But this was different. This betrayal wasn't something she could fix with a smile or a kind word. The foundation of everything she believed in had been shattered, and the pieces felt too jagged to put back together. Alex did everything he could to prove his commitment. He showed up every day, trying to pick up the pieces of their life and put them back in place. But Emily's heart remained distant. She couldn't ignore the haunting image of him with Sophie, and the pain of realizing that their love story had been tainted by a secret she never saw coming. She focused on Lily and Max, their innocent laughter, their tiny hands reaching out to her for comfort, were the only things that made her feel grounded. But even as she loved them fiercely, the emptiness in her heart remained. How could she forgive Alex when she still wasn't sure if she could trust him again? How could she teach her children about love and loyalty when she was struggling to believe in it herself? One day, after a particularly long night of thinking, Emily decided she needed to talk to someone. She couldn't keep carrying this weight alone. She called her best friend, Kate, who had been her rock through the years. Kate had always been the one to listen, to offer advice without judgment. "Kate, I don't know what to do," Emily said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I still love him, but how can I ever trust him again? He's broken me, and I don't know if I can ever forgive him." Kate listened quietly on the other end, her voice calm and understanding. "Emily, I can't tell you what to do. But I know this: if you decide to stay with him, it has to be because you choose it. Not because you feel like you should forgive him, or because you want to make things work for the kids. It has to be about you. Do you think you can trust him again? Do you believe he can change?" Emily sat in silence for a moment, her thoughts swirling. She wanted to believe in Alex. She wanted to believe that people could make mistakes and grow from them. But how could she know if this was truly a mistake, or if it was something deeper, something he had been hiding all along? "I don't know, Kate," she whispered, the weight of her uncertainty pressing down on her. "I just want everything to be like it was. I want the family we used to have." "I get it," Kate said softly. "But Emily, sometimes things don't go back to how they were. Sometimes the choice is to move forward with new strength, whether that means staying together or letting go. You have to decide what's best for you, for your happiness." Those words lingered in Emily's mind for days, and as much as she hated the thought of losing Alex, she realized that she needed to focus on herself. She needed to heal, and that couldn't happen if she kept holding on to the past. She had to find her own path, whether that involved Alex or not. After several sleepless nights, Emily decided it was time for another conversation with Alex. She needed to know once and for all if they could move forward together. She needed to hear him say that he was truly sorry, that he was willing to work on the things that had caused the fracture in their relationship. When Alex came home that evening, Emily was waiting for him, her heart pounding in her chest. She had made up her mind. No more silence. No more pretending everything was okay. It was time to face the truth. "Alex, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady but firm. He nodded, his expression a mixture of guilt and hope. He had been waiting for this moment, knowing it was coming, but unsure of what Emily's decision would be. "I've been thinking," Emily began, taking a deep breath. "I don't know if I can forgive you right now, and I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were. But I need you to understand something. This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about trust. And it's about our family. I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when I'm still broken inside." Alex's eyes filled with tears, and he stepped closer to her. "Emily, I'll do anything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I will work every single day to show you that I can be the man you need. I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for this to happen." She looked at him, seeing the raw emotion in his eyes, but still a part of her couldn't shake the doubt. She loved him, yes, but could she trust him again? Could they rebuild what had been destroyed? "Alex, I'm not saying I'm giving up on us," she said softly, "but I need time. Time to think. Time to heal. I need to find myself again before I can even think about moving forward with you. And I need you to respect that." He nodded, his face full of remorse. "I understand, and I'll wait for as long as it takes, Emily. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I'll prove to you that I'm worth the chance." For the first time in weeks, Emily felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was a start. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was taking control of her life. She could heal. She could forgive. But it would take time, and it had to come on her terms. That night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts were still consumed by the weight of the decision ahead. She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, She allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Time passed. Weeks turned into months. Emily and Alex worked through their issues, slowly and cautiously. Alex went to therapy to work on his own demons, and Emily focused on rebuilding her trust, piece by piece. It wasn't easy, but every small step felt like progress. As the days went by, their family began to heal. Lily and Max continued to bring joy into their lives, and despite the lingering scars, Emily found herself starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, their love could be rebuilt, stronger than before. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was real. It was messy, but it was theirs. And that was enough. For now. Months passed since that conversation, and while progress was slow, there were moments that gave Emily the sense that things could be mended. Alex was putting in the work, and she had seen changes, real changes. But the road ahead was still long and uncertain. Emily had started to rebuild her life, piece by piece, finding her own strength again. She began to rediscover parts of herself that had been buried under the weight of the betrayal. She returned to the things that made her feel whole, her job, her friends, her passions. She even started taking time for herself, going on walks in the park, reconnecting with Kate, and attending therapy to help her process the pain. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. At night, when the house was quiet and the kids were asleep, Emily would lie awake, thinking about the life they had once shared. She could still feel the love she had for Alex, but every time she let herself feel that warmth, it was quickly followed by the sting of the past. She wanted to believe him, to trust him again, but it felt like she was always walking on eggshells, afraid to let herself fall completely back into him. Alex, on the other hand, was determined. He had begun attending couples therapy with Emily, something he never thought he'd have to do but now realized was necessary. He knew he had broken her trust in ways words couldn't fix, but he was committed to doing the hard work. He had enrolled in personal therapy as well, dealing with his own insecurities and issues that led to his betrayal. There were days when Emily could see the man he used to be, the man she once believed in, but other days, she wasn't sure if it was enough. One afternoon, Alex came home early from work. The kids were with Emily's parents for the day, and the house was eerily quiet. He walked into the living room, where Emily was sitting on the couch, looking out the window, lost in thought. "Hey," he said softly, his voice filled with both caution and hope. "Can we talk?" Emily looked at him, her expression unreadable. It had become a common phrase between them. "Can we talk?" And it always carried a weight. But today, for some reason, she felt ready. Maybe it was because she was starting to see the person Alex could become, and maybe it was because she wanted to know if the love they shared could survive this storm. "Of course," she replied, sitting up straighter. Alex sat down beside her, his hands folded in his lap. He had been carrying this conversation in his mind for days, knowing it was time to have it. "I know I've been asking a lot from you. Asking for forgiveness, asking for trust, asking for a chance. And I know you're not ready to fully trust me again. But I want to tell you something that I've been holding back." Emily watched him closely. Her heart raced. She had learned not to jump to conclusions too quickly, not to assume things would go one way or another. She had learned to take things one day at a time, but the fear was always there. What if this conversation led to another wound she wasn't ready to face? Alex took a deep breath. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness right now. I know that will take time, but I need you to know that I am not the man I was before. I've been reflecting and I've been thinking about the things I did, the reasons I made the choices I did. And I see how I hurt you, not just with what I did, but with what I didn't do. I didn't value you enough. I didn't cherish you the way you deserved. And for that, I'm truly sorry." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she listened to him. The sincerity in his voice was different. She could hear it in the way he spoke, the vulnerability in his words. It wasn't just about regret. It was about accountability. He wasn't deflecting blame. He wasn't minimizing what he had done. He was owning it. And that was something she hadn't heard from him before. "I appreciate that, Alex," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I really do. And I see the effort you're making. But I need more time. I need more time to see if I can trust you again. To see if we can rebuild what was lost. Alex nodded, a look of relief washing over his face. I understand. And I'm not going anywhere, Emily. I'll wait as long as it takes. I just needed you to know that I'm here, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this right. For us, for the kids. The silence that followed was heavy, but not in a way it once had been. This was different. This time, Emily felt like she was finally ready to admit that healing didn't have to be an all-or-nothing process. She didn't need to have all the answers right now. She just needed to take one step at a time. Thank you, she said softly, wiping away a tear that had escaped. Thank you for being patient with me. I need to know that I can still be me while we figure this out. I need to know that I'm not losing myself in this. I don't want to lose me. Alex reached out, gently taking her hand. I get it, Emily, and I'll help you find yourself again. I'll do whatever it takes. They sat there for a long time, not saying much, but the air between them had shifted. The weight of the past was still there, but for the first time in months, Emily felt like there was a chance for a future. Not a perfect one, not without pain, but a future where they could rebuild. Together, if they both wanted it. Months passed again. The healing process wasn't linear. There were days when Emily felt like they were making great progress, and other days when the past came rushing back in waves. There were nights when Alex would stay up late, talking about his regrets and how he wished he could undo the hurt he had caused. Emily listened, but at the same time she also realized that it was not just his work to do. She had to heal too. She had to let herself trust again, and that wasn't something he could fix. It was something she had to do for herself. As spring approached, Emily began to feel a shift. She had started doing things for herself, rediscovering her passions, and giving herself space to breathe. The healing process was still ongoing, but it felt more manageable. And Alex, he continued to be there, showing up every day, quietly working to prove his commitment. One afternoon, as they sat in the garden, watching the kids play, Emily looked at Alex and smiled for the first time in a long while. It wasn't a perfect smile. It wasn't the smile of the woman who had been carefree and untouched by hurt. But it was real. And it was enough. Maybe we'll be okay, she said quietly. Alex turned to her, his eyes full of hope. Maybe we will. And with that, they sat together in the quiet, watching their children run and laugh, knowing that their journey wasn't finished yet, but maybe, just maybe, it could still be beautiful. A few months after the anniversary surprise, things between Emily and Alex seemed to have finally settled into a comfortable rhythm. The kids were thriving, their marriage was stronger than ever, and they were both finding peace with the past. But, as life often does, a storm was brewing on the horizon, one that neither of them could have predicted. One evening, after dinner, Emily decided to clear out the basement. It had been on her to-do list for ages, and the clutter was beginning to bother her. While rummaging through some old boxes, she came across an old, forgotten box that was buried under piles of things they hadn't touched in years. Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened it. Inside, she found a collection of old letters. Letters Alex had written to someone. They weren't from their time together, not from when they were dating, not from when they were married. These letters were dated from just a few months ago. Emily's heart raced as she flipped through the pages, each one filled with intimate details, promises of love, and future plans. But they weren't addressed to her. The letters were addressed to someone named Isabelle. Her hands shook as she read through the words. Words that seemed like they belonged in a secret love affair. Words Alex had written to someone else, while Emily believed he had been faithfully by her side, while they had been rebuilding their life together. The letters were passionate, full of longing, and spoke of a future together, of a life they could build once the affair was out in the open. Emily's mind began to race. How had this happened? How could he betray her like this again, after everything they had worked for? The warmth in her chest turned to cold dread. She was certain the man she had built a future with, the one who had sworn he would prove his worth, had lied to her again. Her pulse quickened, and she rushed to find Alex, her thoughts swirling with confusion and rage. He was sitting in the living room, reading a book. Emily didn't speak a word, just walked over to him, the box of letters in her hands. The air seemed to thicken with tension as she placed the letters in front of him. Alex froze, his face paling when he saw what she had found. He tried to speak, but no words came out. His eyes darted around as if he was searching for the right thing to say, but there was nothing, just the crushing silence that followed. "Who is Isabelle?" Emily's voice was cold, controlled, but her heart was breaking in real time. Alex's mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. He knew the game was up, and the weight of the truth had finally caught up with him. He sank into the couch, his hands running through his hair as the gravity of his actions hit him. I didn't mean for this to happen," he said finally, his voice strained. "It was a mistake, a huge mistake. A mistake." Emily's voice cracked, and she could feel the sting of the tears building up in her eyes. "A mistake? You were writing love letters to her while we were rebuilding our life? After everything we've been through? How many more mistakes were you planning on making?" I never meant for you to find out. I didn't want to hurt you," Alex murmured, the guilt evident in his face. "But I did. I betrayed you, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it." Emily shook her head, the disbelief settling in. "You were right there, right in front of me, saying you loved me, rebuilding everything we had, and all the while you were with her, lying to me. You said you were committed, Alex. You said we were past it, that it would never happen again. I never meant to hurt you. Isabelle, she was someone I met when I was struggling, and He stopped, unable to continue. But Emily didn't need to hear the rest. It didn't matter anymore. The love she had so desperately tried to rebuild with him was now shattered, the trust once again broken. Her hands trembling, she grabbed the letters and tore them in half, throwing the pieces to the floor in front of him. "This is over," she said quietly, her voice barely audible but full of finality. "I can't do this again. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me." She turned and walked out of the living room, her steps deliberate, each one taking her farther from the man she had once believed she could trust. She walked upstairs to their bedroom, grabbed a suitcase, and began packing, her movements mechanical. Her heart was broken, but there was no other choice now. The truth was out, and nothing would ever be the same. When Alex came upstairs to try to stop her, to beg for another chance, she looked at him with a clarity she hadn't had before. "You've had your chances, Alex, and you wasted them. You lost me again." And with that, she walked out the door. A week later, the house was eerily quiet without Emily. Max and Lily were staying with friends, and Grace was at her grandmother's house for a few days. Alex sat alone in the empty living room, the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him like a suffocating fog. He knew he had lost her. He had ruined everything. The letters, the lies, the betrayal. It all haunted him, and he realized too late what it had cost him. But there was one final twist. The doorbell rang, pulling him from his thoughts. He opened the door to find Isabelle standing there, holding a small box, a neutral expression on her face. She had heard what had happened. Emily had told her everything. "I'm sorry," Isabelle said, her voice quiet, almost apologetic. "I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was wrong." Alex stood frozen, his heart sinking deeper into regret. Isabelle handed him the box, her eyes sad but resolute. "I didn't want to be the one to tear your family apart. But I'm not going to keep living in the shadows of someone else's pain. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And I think, deep down you have to face what you've done." With those words, she left, leaving Alex standing on the doorstep, holding the box that contained the final piece of the shattered puzzle. Inside the box there was a letter. It was from Emily, and it wasn't a letter of forgiveness. It was a goodbye.